Here is my QuickTime presentation. Here is my proposal where I got to submit some links to my research, my secondary research, my links to my equipment, my links to information on my modes of address, and also links to some of my similar productions. However, my proposal was mainly me talking about what I learned in the 7 units and also about my project concept and overall my final major project. Here is my pitch where I did a variety of things. However, 2 examples here is where I spoke about the concept of my final major project, which was it basically essentially being on Hypebeasts and it being a reflexive observational documentary based within London. The whole purpose of my documentary was to inform people on what Hypebeasts are and to help them understand the culture. The other screen capture on my PowerPoint slide is my initial findings, which I collected from one of the questionnaires I created to find out data on what my audience wanted me to include. An example of this is if they actually wanted me to even create a production based on Hypebeast culture, and many of them answered yes, so I went ahead and created my documentary. Another question I asked was if they would be interested in me providing interviews with Hypebeasts so they could get a better understanding on what these people actually are and what do they do. Here is my schedule which I created to help me complete all of my tasks on time and to know my deadlines. This was very useful. It helped me develop my organizational skills and it just helped me keep to my deadlines over the final major project. Here is my target audience. The target audience of my documentary on Hypebeast culture was on young men and maybe women aged 16 to 20 with no specific race, religion, annual income or occupation. However, to purchase items that would be considered hype, the people would have to be middle or upper class to afford the items as a result of the price. The people that would be interested in my documentary would predominantly be aspirers or mainstreamers. It would also make sense for them to have a creative, curious mindset because of the nature of my documentary. It would also make some sense that they would have an interest in fashion and also hyped culture, as my documentary heavily relates into fashion. Here is some examples of research I've taken part in. Here is my poster on the left, which got influenced by the poster on the right, which is why I put the text at the bottom of my poster to make it look like a film poster. Here is an example of visual research I made. This is a mood board which helped me develop my project as it allowed me to visualize what my final major project will actually look like. My secondary target audience of my final major project would most likely be Generation X, who are parental figures who may have children who are hypebeasts or spend large amounts of money on clothing and may want to know why they do this. Here is some of my production paperwork. Here is my budget, a risk assessment, and one of my recce reports. It was relatively easy to create these 3 pieces of production paperwork. However, they definitely helped me understand my locations better and some of the potential risks. Here is some of my screenshots from my Final Cut Pro edits. On the left, with a screenshot of the actual timeline, I have added a text box, some background music, and also some B-roll footage on top of my interviews to make them look more interesting. On the right, you can see how I've created some test recordings, my FMP Assemble, my Fine Cut, my Picture Lock, and my Rough Cut. Now my animatic. My animatic was very useful as it helped me visualize what my FMP looked like. Here are some of the screenshots from my video. In the top left, you can see a Supreme chair which I added for the audience to actually see what type of items the brand Supreme makes. And on the bottom left is one of the edits I put onto one of the scenes of my FMP video the outfits with the blurred background I found looked very interesting and would please the viewers. On the right, it shows actual filmed footage outside Supreme, which I found would help the audience actually understand more about the brand. Here is my poster, which I created. I formatted the text very bold and white to contrast the dark background. The image I'd taken was from a Hypebeast store where they sold lots of hyped items, which I felt heavily related into what my final major project was about. Here is one of the screenshots from my reflective journal where me and John were experimenting with my camera's audio and how loud the audio was that it was taking in. So it didn't take too much audio and that it didn't take too little, so it wasn't too loud. And in conclusion, my final major project went better than I expected. I was originally quite nervous how my video would turn out because they kicked me off the premises of Supreme, as apparently I wasn't allowed to film there. However, I filmed lots of other stores that could be associated with Hypebeast, so I had lots of viable footage for my final major project video.